Hey guys, let me introduce you to the best scenic board, this award-winning display that we won for Armies on Parade in 2017. This is Lake Town. My name's David, welcome to Enduro Models. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Today we're going to be looking at exactly how we built this, how we constructed it, the extension, why we did that, why we thought that was important, and we're going to go into all the nitty-gritty details of how we made Lake Town come to life on such a small 2x2 board with all the features and benefits. So stick around, let's get stuck in.
What is this place?
This Master Buggins is the world of men.
The biggest problem we had, obviously, with a lot of our builds is trying to fit it into a small space. Okay, so for Armies on Parade, you have a 2x2 capacity to try and get your board and your display in. Okay, it can be smaller, it can't be any bigger than that, ideally.
A lot of the research went into figuring out exactly what I wanted to include on the board. I wanted to include things like the wind lance, the master's house and the bridge. All of these we needed to figure out how to fit them in and create that narrow feel of an overpopulated town. We first started with the Lake Town houses from Games Workshop, which are a perfect blend of plastic, easy to build and incredible detail. I had 4 Games Workshop houses to play with, the others you see later we built from scratch. The houses give you different options for windows and a ton of extra details including barrels, boats and fishing nets. We ended up customizing them a tiny bit by adding things like extra windows, stairs and chimneys. The plastic kits from GW are great because they have little grooves on the edges and you can simply slot the ends in place. After cutting them off the sprue and doing some dry fits, I began to glue them together. The roofing is also incredibly detailed because you can even see the tiles that are missing, and it creates so much effect that when you paint it, it really comes to life. Esgaroth, or Lake Town, formerly known as Esgaroth upon the Long Lake, constructed entirely of wood and standing upon wooden pillars sunk into the lake bed. The town is south of the Lonely Mountain and east of Mirkwood. After using the kits as a guide, we started making our own from foam board. Keith started by making the base box shape of the house, estimating the appropriate size and using the guidance of the Games Workshop kit. Cutting out the windows is quite precise, however you don't need to worry about exact lines because they're old buildings, not always going to be 100% straight anyway. It's just about getting the basic size of the window and doing lots of little cuts rather than one big cut.
Okay, we've now got our basic frame and box, including the windows, and the next step is to create the leaded light effects for the windows. And this is made using this corner edging, which I got from B&Q. It's for when you're plastering walls, and it's ideal, so it's just a matter of cutting off a relevant piece of this edging and then fixing it behind the windows. And I'm doing it now before I put the top story and the roof on because you want to be able to easily access the back of the windows. You have to be careful not to cut your fingers when doing this, and of course it comes out a bit of an odd shape, so the back of the pliers is a simple way of flattening it out. And then it's just a matter of fixing it to the back of the window, and you create your leaded light effects.
In making the upper story of the house, we knew it needed to be a little bit bigger than the lower section, so we added on 1/2 centimetre to make sure it was longer on both sides. Once that was glued in place, we then added balsa wood to the edges and matchsticks for the window ledges.
So the advantage of these bespoke houses is you can put little battery packs in and have lights in the individual houses. One way of creating variation in the colour of the lights is to put some thin curtain material to reflect the fact that light will often be shining through curtain. Again, something that I found in a garden centre were these little strips of different coloured gauze used for making birthday cards. Lots of different colours. You can buy the pinks, greens and yellows. There was a blue one. And by simply putting these inside the windows, the light will shine through the colour and just vary the light in the buildings.
When adding the lights to the rest of the board, we knew we wanted them to look like old-fashioned torches and not LED lights. So we just painted them with a light brown, only a slight dry brush, not to remove all the colour, but just to give it that subtle tint, so it really gave the effect that they were actual fire-burning torches. Moving on to the roof of the house, we had to chamfer off the square edge, so when we want to put the roof on, it will rest against an edge. To make the tiles, Keith used some card and divided it into 1.5 centimetre lines, which allows for the width of the tile and an overlap of the next layer of tile. Once the tiles were cut out, we then used PVA glue to layer them onto the roof. Keith also used a crinkle cut pair of scissors, sometimes used in dressmaking. This one was a diamond zigzag cut. By using it along the edge, it creates a slightly different effect for the tiles and the roofing. The idea is to layer the tiles on top of each other in stages onto the card. Ideally you want to overlap this because once it's dry you can always trim it off at the end. Halfway up the roof we added a shaped layer just to create a variety, and cutting away at a few individual tiles can really create a variation and realism. How many houses do you see these days with missing tiles on their roof? And there you have it, a hand-built, handcrafted Lake Town house using reference from the Games Workshop kits, but predominantly it's all handmade. I'd be really interested if you guys want to try and build your own. Let me know in the comments if you used any of the tools, tips and tricks from this video. When we moved on to painting the houses, after the research and watching the film multiple times, I knew it was going to be a lot of browns and dark washes. Because of the wood, I wanted it to look dark and old.
So some of the houses I tried to get different tones of maybe reds or greens underneath, as if they would have painted the wood, and hopefully that's kind of come through on different houses. But a lot of it was browns, dark browns with washes, black washes, and then very light highlights. One tiny little bit of detail that I really wanted to include was actually Bard on his boat, as if he's like trying to get away, or he's, you know, got some barrels. And so I actually converted the Bard that comes with the wind lance and just put an oar in his hand instead, so he's actually floating along.
Using the empty baskets that come with the GW kit, we wanted to fill them with fruit. So using a little bit of glue and an old necklace, we just got the smaller beads, cut them up and put them in the basket. Remember, the glue will dry transparent and then you can paint them whatever you want. So we use this one here to paint for oranges, but you could have apples, you could have pears, you could have a mixture of different things to really create your fruit and veg stand. As Bard comes in, he's obviously carrying a lot of barrels, so we thought it's really appropriate to have lots of different sets of barrels glued together. We actually brought these different sets online. I'm gluing this one down using super glue and just glued it into a Lake Town boat that came with the GW set. So after Armies on Parade, we knew actually we really wanted to extend Lake Town, make it a little bit bigger, and I wanted to include that kind of causeway where Legolas rides after Bolg at the end of their fight scene. So to do this, and for ease of storage really, we wanted to make everything modular, apart from the base itself and the ice, which are all glued down. But the houses, the causeway, the walkways, the boards, the barrels, everything like that is all modular, so I can take it off, pack it away, and then set it up whenever we want to display on it. Keith had the challenge of building the Master's house, so I'm going to let him explain how he did it.
I had to try and get an apex roof in low relief into a right-angled corner. And the back had to be covered in because I wanted to put lights behind the front windows, which were going to be stained glass. So we didn't want leakage of the light. So it was a real sort of trial and error to think in those 3 dimensions. It felt like 4 dimensions of getting the right angle and the apex. I decided to try and make the balustrades using mat pins. They're beautifully shaped and sprayed brown. They look like carved wood rather than stone. And steps using lots of matchsticks and strips of wood. I love the materials that York Models produce, so they do a lot of like church windows, little round porthole windows and so on, which I've used in the Master's house, and they just give that impression that it's a more important building, perhaps the most important building, at least from the Master's point of view, in Lake Town.
And finally, adding the ice and creating the realism of the frozen stone-cold lake below. Precision Ice and Snow is where we get the ice sheets from. They are brilliant, and you can get a variety of different sheets if you want. This one here is just plain ice, but you can get like a dirty water one, and there's a bunch of different options, so you have to go and check out. I'll put the link in the description. They come backed with a film, so you turn them upside down and smash them with a hammer. Then the bits of ice can be peeled off the sheet and added to the model.
Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you've liked it, please smash that subscribe button, leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you and what you think our next project should be. Keith and I are busy working in our homes in Derbyshire and in Surrey, and we'd love to get stuck into something going into 2023. We're just getting started on this channel, so if you know anybody that would love to watch this kind of video or this type of content, please send them the link. I'm trying to reach as many people with this as I can, and your support really means a lot. We've got plenty more Middle-earth goodness coming on this channel, so stick around and I'll see you in the next video.